Hello, friends. As we explore digital dharma, how AI can elevate spiritual intelligence and personal well being, I am starting to share my daily explorations on AI with you. In the book, you will learn how to use the art of the prompt so that you can get original answers, know what the prevailing conversation is, who agrees with you, who disagrees with you, and how you can actually train AI to express your worldview with the best references. So, in that spirit, today's exploration from me is perception in any species, including human beings, a window to the truth of reality? Or is it engineered in such a way to allow our survival and evolution as a species? Answer. I've been saying nothing, I've been saying all along, if you followed some of my videos, that nothing perceptual or conceptual can be real. Only the source of perception and conception can be real. So here's the answer. Perception is not a window to the objective truth of reality, but rather a species-specific interface shaped by evolution to promote survival and reproduction. The interface theory of perception argues that our senses form a biological user interface between our brain and the outside world, transducing physical stimuli into neural impulses processed as perceptual representations. I have a whole series on just this topic with Don Hoffman, and you can check it out on the same YouTube channel. Don Hoffman is a cognitive scientist. These representations are not isomorphic to objective reality, which means they don't correspond to objective reality, but rather species-specific icons that are useful for accomplishing adaptive tasks. Natural selection favors perceptual systems that enhance fitness, not necessarily those that accurately depict the true nature of reality. As long as our perceptions allow us to successfully navigate our environment, find resources, avoid predators, and reproduce, evolution will shape them in that direction rather than toward vertical perception. Vertical perception means that which leads to truth. Perception is thus inherently species-specific and shaped by the particular ecological niche and adaptive challenges faced by each organism. What matters is not objective truth, but rather the interface's effectiveness in promoting survival and reproduction in that species environment. Perception is an evolutionary adaptation, not a window to reality. Then I asked about, different perceptions in different species, which I've shared with you in the past. But then I went a little further. Since perception is not a window to reality, what is? Is it transcending the senses to the source of all experience? Is that a possibility that gives us access to a field or matrix of possibilities from where all perceptions emerge? This, of course, is a theoretical question. Is fundamental reality not experience, but the source of our experience? Okay, which is something I've proposed all along. Here's the answer. Fundamental reality is not experience itself, but rather the source from which all experience emerges. By the way, then it quotes me. Our senses do not provide a direct window to reality, as what we perceive is shaped by our physical abilities, energy levels, feelings, social identities, and more. Perception is an interactive process where the brain processes sensory inputs to create experiences, but these experiences may not fully reflect objective reality. Some philosophers argue that our senses actually veil or conceal fundamental metaphysical reality, which is remote from the world directly presented to our senses. By the way, this is called the veil of ignorance and includes ego and body and world that correspond to the ego. Okay, quantum theory and general relativity describe reality in ways that are very different from our everyday sensory experiences. So, if perception is not a reliable guide to reality, what is? Some suggest that transcending the senses to directly access the source of all experience may be a path to fundamental reality. The source could be a field or matrix of possibilities from which all perceptions emerge. In summary, while our senses provide a starting point for understanding reality, they do not give us unfiltered access to fundamental reality. Transcending the senses to directly experience the source of all experience is something that has been suggested by wisdom traditions. So then I went on. I said, is Samadhi not a way of transcending the senses? Especially in yogic traditions, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, which is Dharana is focused awareness, Dhyan, meditation, Samadhi, transcendence, and absence of subject-object split. Are these not ways to access the source of all fluctuations of consciousness, including sense perception, sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts? And when we do that, we go to the source of all experiences, which presumably is the source of all reality. Answer. In yogic traditions, Samadhi is indeed a state of consciousness that transcends the senses. It is the culmination of the three inner limbs of yoga: dharana, focused awareness; dhyan, meditation; and samadhi. In samadhi, the distinction between subject and object dissolves. There is no longer a separate sense of self observing the world, but rather a state of pure awareness and oneness. This resolution of the subject-object split is said to provide access to the source of all experiences and fluctuations of consciousness. By stilling the mind through practices like mantra repetition, meditation, self-inquiry, mindfulness, one can reach a state where sensations, perceptions, thoughts, and feelings all arise from and dissolve back into a unified field of pure awareness. This field is considered the source of all reality in yogic philosophy. So in summary, Samadhi is a transcendent state that goes beyond the senses by dissolving the boundaries of the ego self. This allows us to directly experience the source of consciousness itself, which is viewed as the ultimate ground of being and the origin of all phenomena. That's it. So see, we're getting there, and we're training AI to support the worldviews that I have shared with you and you have shared with me over the past. Immense gratitude, my friends.